Hi everyone, my name is Jalanis Velez. I hope you're having or you have had a good day. Today we are going to be talking all about the HSI, so we are going to let's get technical-ish. And the HSI model in Spanish is called Modelo de Interconexión de Sistema Humanos, which spells ish, and so we take advantage of that pun, so let's get technical-ish. We are really going to dive deep into the HSI model today, and we've done previous videos in Spanish, but this one is going to be in English. And as an introduction, my name is Jalanis Velez. Like I said, I am part of the Students with Perspective team of 2021. Students with Perspective is the internship program from Perspectivas Globalis. And Perspectivas Globalis is a project from the company DRMTS. And PG offers co-working spaces, mentoring, and education services for new and upcoming entrepreneurs. And we're located in Mayagüez, Puerto Rico. And with this presentation, we hope that you can know the model, the HSI model, and where it comes from. We've talked quite about it in our previous videos. We hope that you are able to understand its components, and we hope that you can begin to see how you can make the HSI model part of your perspective. So as an overview, we're going to discuss what is the HSI model? Where does the model come from? Why are we talking about it, and why do we believe it is important? Next, we'll be talking about the media layers, and that'll be the first component of the HSI, where we will be discussing how is it that we humans are able to receive information from our environment, and how is it that we are able to send out information into the environment. Then we'll discuss the mini modules, and then there we'll be talking about how does that information from the environment reach our minds? How is it that we can have an understanding of that information? Then we'll discuss the host layers, and that's the last component of the HSI. And there we'll be talking about how is it that we become aware of things? How is it that we can know certain things at a given moment? And how is host layer processing different from other mental types of processing? And finally, I hope to be providing some answers, which is what can we do by knowing this information? How is it can we use the model? When can we use it? What are some takeaways from this? So what is the HSI? The HSI model is a new perspective that you can take whenever you consider human behavior and the world around you. So it serves as a guide or a cognitive tool, and it can facilitate the process of us stepping back and observing a situation so that we are able to understand it and come up with our best response, as at the same time that we are helping ourselves be the people that we want to be. So the HSI is not an object, it's not something that we can buy or find somewhere. It's just a way of thinking about ourselves and the world around us. Okay, so the Human Systems Interconnection Model, the HSI. It was adapted from the OSI, the Open Systems Interconnection Model, which is used to understand computer communication processes. And the OSI divides computer communication processes in 7 layers. So the HSI model adopted those 7 layers, which are the same one we're going to be talking a little bit today. And the HSI, with its adaptation from the OSI, presents all human activity as internal and external communication. So throughout this presentation, I might mention this internal and external words frequently. So whenever I say internal, I mean inside of our minds. Whenever I say external, it is outside of our minds. So our bodies are outside of our mind, the environment is outside of our mind. The insides of our bodies, our physiological processes, those are outside of our minds. Whatever we can see is basically outside of our minds, right? We don't have eyes inside our mind, so we can't take a look inside our mind, guys. If it's inside our minds, it's internal, and then external is outside of our minds. I hope I explained myself. And so in the same way that the OSI model helps better understand computer communication processes, The application of the HSI can lead to a clear understanding of human behavior, which can lead to us making better decisions for ourselves and our surroundings. So we can use this model to understand ourselves, what goes on around us, what goes on with others, and help improve the experience of our daily lives. So information flows through these layers using 5 energetic processes. And this is important when I talk about the media layers because the media layers are able to deal with these energies, and these energies are electromagnetic, electrical, physical, biochemical, and thermal. And so I'll talk about more about why it is that these energies are important, because when we are talking about the media layers, which is when we're able to capture and send information, whether we want to externalize it, use our bodies, and that comes from instructions our minds send to our body, or whether we are perceiving stimuli, whether it's temperature changes or sounds, smells, so we can capture that information. So although the HSI is a way of thinking or a cognitive tool, like I said, it is a perspective, it is able to represent human behavior. And this is possible because along with this way of thinking, the model presents a framework or how the layers interact. We have these components, we have these layers, and we can study them and see how is it that everything works. So the framework shows the interaction between the outside world, our bodies, and our minds. With its adaptation from the OSI model, the HSI tells us that human systems are composed of 7 layers. These 7 layers are grouped into 3 kinds of information processing, and that'll be the media layers, so they're able to understand information when it's processed in this certain way, and then the mini modules, they also carry out information processing in a different way, and then we have the host layers, which they can also process information. So they have different roles. Notice also that they are color coded, and so throughout the presentation, the media layers will be in green, the mini modules will be in orange, and the host layers will be in blue. Okay, so I was talking about the media layers, and I was talking about how they can capture and send out information, whether it is to internalize it or externalize it. Internalize it, bring it into our minds, externalize it, get it out of our minds. I was talking also about 5 types of energy, and here in the slide I have that science allows us to study the flow of information through these layers. The media layers use these types of energy, and so we have gained a lot of understanding about our surroundings and our bodies because of these flow of information that uses these types of energies. We can study thermal energy, we know biochemical, we know our bioelectrical signaling in our nervous system. That is something that we have been able to study. So when we talk about the media layers, they are outside of our minds, and they include our body, its physiological processes, everything that goes inside of our body, as well as our surroundings. We can say that this is the most concrete or material layer because of the fact that it includes everything we can see, and we have been able to study uh, these types of energies and our surroundings and our bodies thanks to science. And so that means that we are able to track the flow and the exchange of information in the media layers. So we know that when something in an environment creates a sound, and there's a human around to capture those sound waves, and our ears, those sound waves are mechanical energy, and they move the little drum in our ears, and then some neurotransmitter gets sent out and emits this biochemical, but this electrical gradients as well. And then we can understand that sound, and we know that sound comes from that bird, and we're able to do that because our media layers capture that information with our bodies. We can perceive it, and then that information can get sent out to the mini modules. So after that neurotransmitter gets sent out, we lose track of the information, and that's when it reaches the mini modules. The mini modules will be in orange. And we don't really know where they are because the mini modules are internal. They are part of our minds. They are inside of our minds. And we can't really know. We can't pinpoint our minds. But they are in direct communication with our bodies. So the mini modules contain our unique experiences. They use information and resources that are available to interpret information from the surroundings, information they receive. They understand the neurotransmitter. And the mini modules can do many, many things at once. So we can perceive the sounds, but we also maybe feel hot and the temperature is rising, and we are aware of that. And then we might have to pee. And so there's a lot of things going on, and our mini modules are taking care of everything. So the mini modules store information about our way of being. So when I say that the mini modules use available resources, this may be our knowledge, our memories, abilities that we have developed according to our experiences and what we have learned from the information that we have been exposed to. The mini modules store information about our way of being, about our assumptions, our preferences, and our experiences. And so even though the mini modules are internal, they are inside of our minds, they are part of our minds, we are still not aware of that information. So even though our body's doing all of those things, we don't know that our heart is beating unless we pay attention to it. We don't know that we're breathing unless we pay attention to it. And we actually have absolutely no idea how to make our muscles move. I can't tell my heart to beat or stop beating, but it happens. It just happens involuntarily. And so the mini modules take care of all of this automatic processing. That's why they're able and they have to do so many things at once. Then we have the host layers. They will be in blue. The host layers are also internal. They are also part of our minds. And so we don't know exactly where they are either. We think that we think with our brains, and we think that our minds are associated with our brains. So maybe we can say that they're close to our brains, but we don't know where our mini modules are, or where our host layers are. We haven't been able to study them as we have with the media layers. And so the host layers are limited in capacity. They are smaller, we can say. They're not machines like our mini modules, and they contain information that a person is aware of at a given moment. And so they have little resources. They can't store information like our mini modules. So in that way, they are limited to what we are paying attention, what we are studying and evaluating at a given moment. So of all the information that is in our subconscious, our host layers can have access to certain parts of it, and they are able to process that information differently. And so our mini modules take care of those automatic processing and understanding everything that's going on. So our host layers can have a little bit more time and evaluate, make decisions, and compare stuff. They can identify things, which is something that our mini modules can't do because they want to do everything fast and automatically. And so, if we take time to notice, we can realize that our thoughts are constantly changing and they depend on what goes on around us. So, I can be sitting here not talking, and then a million things can be going through my head, and I can be aware of those things. I'm not necessarily aware of everything that's going on, but I can be aware of certain things. And we can also notice that it might be hard to hold a certain thought. When we try to concentrate or focus on something, it's practically impossible. Our thoughts are always changing. And so that is what our host layers do. They give us this extra processing of certain types of information that they are able to have access to. So another way to see the model, if we look at the slide before and the slide before, here it's bigger, the model is lying vertically, but I also like to see it horizontally because it reminds me that what it matters is how they are connected. The flow of information has to follow this linear process. So notice how they are connected because this arrangement is crucial for the production of any human activity. This allows me to think and move and speak and breathe and do everything, digest my food, all while I'm sitting here talking to you. And so we can see in this slide that there is no direct contact between the media layers and the host layers. There's no direct contact between our environment and our conscious, all that we are aware of. And here I haven't really talked about the host layers as our consciousness or the mini modules as our subconscious, but we can begin to introduce these if we remember that the host layers are information that we know at a given moment. So we are conscious, we are aware of that information. And then our mini modules, they're subconscious, they're things that are happening, they're processing that's being done, but we don't know it. We are not aware of it. We don't have to do anything for it to happen. Our bodies just do it. And so we can also notice that our bodies, and they are part of the media layers. So they are not in direct contact with the host layers, they are in direct contact with the mini modules. So our subconscious processing, those automatic processes, they happen because of our mini modules. And if you take an overall view of these two diagrams, you can see that the mini modules serve as a bridge between the external, whatever's going on in the environment and our bodies, and our experience. What is it that our minds know? What is it that we are experiencing? And they are constantly exchanging information, the mini modules, and we can say that they're like translating it for our host layers to understand and then to send it out into the environment. And so another really important thing that I want to show you is that the flow of information can go from the media layers to the host layers, or from the host layers to the media layers. So whenever we hear a sound and we hear this bird, that reaches our consciousness. So that means the information went from the media layers into our host layers. And then if our host layers, we decide that we're going to get up and we want to take a look at the sound and see if we can find the bird. So our host layers send that information into our subconscious, and our subconscious communicates with our body, and we stand up and we go outside. So the flow of information can go both ways, but it has to be linear. We need to have that bridge between the media layers and the host layers. So the media layers will feed information to our mini modules so they can process and understand and store. And then some of that information in the mini modules can then be passed on to the host layers and reach our conscious thought. Okay, so this is a pretty broad view of the HSI model. We can actually go deeper into these three components that we've learned about: the media layers, the mini modules, and the host layers. We can talk individually about the 7 layers, but I think that having an understanding about how is it that this big 3 components work can help ease that transition into thinking about the layers individually. So we'll just leave it at that. And I want to discuss some takeaways from the model. And the first thing that we can take away is some subconscious thoughts become conscious thoughts. So if we take a look at the model again, everything that is in our consciousness, everything that we are aware of at a given moment, was first in our subconscious. So all of our conscious thoughts are first subconscious thoughts, which means that all of the processing that happens, all the things that we do, the realizations that we have, they are first subconscious. We are not aware of it. We don't know, we don't have a clue that they're happening. And then some of them get presented into our consciousness. Some of them reach our host layers where we can evaluate and we can make decisions and process that information a little bit differently. Another thing that we can take away is that subconscious behaviors are different from conscious behaviors. And I want to give an example here because I mentioned earlier about our breathing and that it was something that we do automatically. I've been breathing the whole day and I haven't had to think about it once. But if I think about my breathing, I do it differently. Whenever I am breathing automatically at the same time that I'm speaking, I'm breathing in a certain way. And then when I am consciously breathing, when I am breathing and I am aware that I'm breathing, for me to be aware means to do it a little bit differently. And so that helps us notice that some of our behaviors can change if they're done automatically with our subconscious or if we are conscious about it and we are able to process them in a different way. And another thing that we can take away is that time is equal to more predictions because time allows more thoughts to reach our awareness, more of that information from our subconscious to be made consciously. And with our consciousness, we can actually ask for some of that information. And so if we remember that our mini modules are these machines that they want to do things really fast all the time, they want to do things automatically. Sometimes with time, we are able to use our host layers, use our consciousness, and evaluate the situation or evaluate our response better. So many of our decisions are made automatically or very quickly, but if we spend some time with them, maybe we can have more options, more alternatives, and we're able to see a clearer picture, which can lead us to eventually making a better decision. Another thing that we can say with the HSI model is that automatic responses are hard to change. No matter how badly I want to stop breathing right now, it would be very hard for me to stop doing that. My body has been doing that nonstop since I was born. And so that is something that my mini modules have do automatically without questioning it. But if I wanted to maybe wake up in the morning and not use my phone the whole morning, and I'm really used to using my phone in the morning, that'll be something that is very hard for me to do at first. And so it might take us some time to get used to not using our phone in the morning, and we might have to hide it, and we might have to try different things for us to finally be able to say, okay, I have not used my phone this morning. So new activities often require conscious thought. I just said, if we want to give a try to changing our morning routine a little bit, we might have to give it some thought and think about some strategies. Because if we don't use our conscious thought, if we don't pay attention to what's happening, then we'll just keep doing the same thing. And then when we wake up in the morning, the first thing we will do is take our phones. So we might have to think about it and try different things in order for us to reach our goals. And then our last takeaway is that humans are equal to two minds and one body. I hope that you have been able to understand that our minds and our bodies are connected and they are also connected to the environment, but everything has a different role and everything works in that way so we are able to understand the information from our surroundings and carry out our basic daily activities. So humans, we have our bodies, and we have two minds, two kinds of mental processes. We have our subconscious mental processes and our conscious mental process. Or if we use HSI model terminology, we have our mini modules, which take care of everything that we do automatically. And then we have our host layers, which can observe and evaluate and identify and make decisions. And so we are able to be the people that we are because of this. We are able to survive as well as we can be professionals, we can be successful, we can be happy, we can be sad, we can enjoy our lives. And so, yes, this is the Let's Get Technical-ish presentation about the HSI. I hope that this was not too technical, but I hope that this has been enough for you to see how sophisticated the HSI model is and how you can incorporate it into your daily lives. And I hope that you can gain some useful knowledge about yourself. Thank you.